Good afternoon and welcome to East Devon District Council's Audit and Governance Committee on 20th of November 2025. I am your chair, Councillor Chris Burrup. I'd also like to welcome anyone watching the meeting via the live streaming. Any members of the public who want to view the agenda can do so by visiting our website on www.eastdevon.gov.uk. We're not expecting a fire drill, but in the event of a fire alarm, please exit the room. You run following the green running man, and we assemble on the car park. We'll now start the meeting by doing a roll call and declaration of interests of committee members here present. Over to you, Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Starting with yourself, Councillor Burrup.
I'm definitely present, and I have no interest to declare.
Councillor Davey.
Present, no interests.
Councillor Barlow.
Present, no interest that I'm aware of.
Councillor Collins.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Present, no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Goodman.
Present, no declaration of interest.
Councillor King.
Present, no declarations.
No, Councillor Brown. And our independent person, Rob Wood.
Present, no declarations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we move on to agenda item 1, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. If anyone has a comment on the sets of minutes from the 18th of September 2025, please do this by raising your hand. If I have no hands raised, I will take this as an indication that you all agree the minutes of the previous meetings. Any comments or questions? Okay, thank you. The minutes of the previous meetings are recommended to be agreed, and I will sign them. Thank you very much. That's great. Agenda item 2, we have apologies from Councillor Kim Bloxham. Anything else?
Yes, I've got apologies from Councillor Levine.
Thank you. And agenda item 3, declarations of interest we have done. Agenda item 4 is public speaking. I don't believe we have any public speakers registered to speak. So we go on to agenda item 5. At this rate, we'll be finished in 15 minutes. Late items and matters of urgency, I have none. Confidential and exempt items, we do have a Part B item at the end of this agenda, but I don't believe we have anything other than that. So we can move on to agenda item 7, which is Internal Audit Activity Progress Report for Quarter 2, and this is a report presented by Connor McLaughlin Nesta, Principal Auditor from SWAP. Over to you, Connor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. The report starts on page 8 of the agenda pack. This is our second progress report for the 25-26 Internal Audit Plan. I'm going to assume you've all had a chance to review the report in detail, so I'm just going to stick to the highlights of what we've done since the last committee report. So to summarise, 5 audits have been completed since our last report. We've got 2 audits currently at draft report stage. We've got 6 audits in progress. At this point, so at the point that the report was prepared, 54% of planned audits have either started or been completed. There aren't any new limited opinion reports to highlight in this report. There are 3 follow-up audits that have been completed. The details of those reports are set out on pages 16 through 18. In terms of outstanding actions, the number of outstanding actions has reduced from 93 down to 82, and the number of review actions has reduced from 18 down to 11. As members highlighted last time, there are concerns about the level of the proportion of actions that have had extended dates. That continues to be high at the moment, but what we have done is agreed that we're going to provide some extra reports to senior management that highlight actions as they are being extended. That will give them a bit more overview or oversight of what's happening on a month-to-month basis. And we are going to start the planning process for next year in January, and during that process we'll ask all directorates to review all of their actions to get updates for every action, and any actions that can be closed down at that point will be closed down. I'm going to hand back to you now for questions, as I've gone through the sort of key parts of the report. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Connor. Any questions? Councillor Barlow.
So you say that they're going to do that in January for the reporting back to find out where we are with these longer ones. When are we expected to see that here?
So our next report to you is due in March.
Councillor Goodman.
Thank you. When we look at the outstanding audits, it was 60% in 2023, 48% last year, and 54% this year. Is that due that they're outstanding because of the sheer volume of work to do, and also is that percentage outstanding the norm for the industry? That's the first point. And a couple of other points is, one, it's very pleasing to see there are no high operational risk, unlike the previous year, and I think that's a real good step forward. And also, whilst we talk about those outstanding, what is pleasing is the fact that we haven't now got any 61 days or more compared to what we did have before. So some of the long-term ones have come down. We're still not right, but are you confident we can actually make up some of the lost ground we need? Thank you.
Over to you, Connor.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions there. I'll try and remember them. So in terms of where you are as opposed to the industry average, I'm not sure I can comment on that. In terms of the reasons for actions being overdue, I think that's really more of a question for management to answer. While we collate the responses for you, that is our role, is just to collate them. So I'll hand that back to manager's response. I've already forgotten some of your other questions. I apologise.
Just the fact that now we haven't got any 61 days plus. We've got 31 days plus.
Yep.
I suppose the issue is for the management, that's some progress, but are we confident that we can actually make up the outstanding ones so we don't have the overdue ones? Because it's the overdue ones that concern everybody here.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I think, again, that's more of a question for management, as they're responsible for implementing the actions. But what we can do in our next exercise is target those for you to get more of an update.
So, given it's a question for management, and management here, maybe we can pass that over to management to summarise it. It's unfair potentially just to ask Simon to comment on it, because a lot of these outstanding actions span multiple departments. So, given that we have two representatives and Simon's just been nodded to, so how could you respond, maybe, Simon, please?
Thank you, Chair. And I think with that caveat, as you described, in terms of they'll range across the authority. But I suppose from management's point of view, this is an area of concern that regular reports coming to ELT, SLT now. There's definitely a spotlight in terms of clearing these off, and you can see that is now progressing through. Connor's mentioned in terms of concern over where changes of dates. So what we've asked for is a specific report to be produced on that. Ideally, we'd want some sort of authorisation where dates are being changed, but that's quite a complex thing within the system. So we have asked for reports to come forward just so we can keep a track of that at management. So all I can say is there's a spotlight on it. We are tackling it. You can see it coming down, but we'll continue to do that, Councillor.
Thank you. Just if I may first, just on that point, 82 actions. I mean, it is great to see the numbers coming down. Of those 82 actions, 61 have had the dates extended. So I think that's the primary focus now for us. We're seeing great action on the numbers coming down. We'd love to see the oldest ones being attended to, and also, almost a by exception moratorium, if that doesn't mix my metaphor slightly, but a by exception moratorium on extending dates, because it should be it almost got cultural. It's okay, we can roll it. We'll extend the dates. It won't matter. Actually, it matters because it builds this big bow wave. And we need to see dates kind of being held fast and then being reported against when we don't achieve them for whatever reason, in my opinion. Sorry, Councillor Goodman first, and then...
Yeah, all I was going to say is that I think it's really encouraging we have no high operational risk, because that's so important for authority. When you have even one high operational risk, it concerns us. And I just wanted to comment, because I think it's really good that we haven't got, as an authority, any high operational risks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow.
Well, talking about high risk, I thought we had a priority one that's still overdue and outstanding. And this is this in-phase system that we've been talking about for the actual management, and so that we can actually find the performance of not only management but the rest of the staff. And again, that was due back in 24. Now it's 25. Now we're running out of 25. So how is in-phase doing, and why is it still held up?
There's been significant delays in terms of the supplier side, in terms of their. We've lost a number of project managers who've been working on it, so we're on our third project manager. We've also lost the client manager recently, and it has been thwarted with issues, and I can probably give you more detail outside of this meeting. It wouldn't probably be appropriate to go into the level of detail within this meeting, but we are now making good progress. We are nearly there with the system being populated. Gemma in my team has a meeting next week with the supplier, I think 2 days of meetings, to basically make sure that it's set up in the way that we want it set up, so it can then be rolled out. So it should be imminent, but it is absolutely fair to say it's been thwarted with issues, but we've very much been we've been on top of those issues and trying to deal with them, but unfortunately it's been a catalogue of things. But I'm very happy to share a bit more information outside this meeting.
And I'm presuming you're saying, so when are we likely to see it now? And also, I presume if this is a supplier problem, which is what you're saying, we will be penalising them, I presume, because it's not an us problem, it's a them problem. They signed a contract, I presume we signed a contract.
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to answer that question in an open meeting, but I'm very happy to have that discussion at the end of the meeting.
Well, in the Part B, so we can hear it, that's great.
Yeah,
fine.
whatever, or
Thank you.
after the meeting. After the meeting, probably.
Thanks, Mel. Yeah, thank you. Just one point on that. If we are struggling for so long, so it's a couple of years now waiting for this system to come in. Have we got a workaround? Have we got something temporary that's in place that, you know, sort of replaces?
We're always managing all of our actions. It's a very manual system at the moment. So absolutely all of our actions are managed and monitored. But obviously this is a system that will be able to provide much more professional reporting to you as members. So we're very keen to get it. So yeah, it's key for us.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you. My question is about page 11, strategic risk coverage, the table here. There's quite a number still of blank spaces to the right of the various strategic risk areas. Top of that list here is devolution and local government review, which I'm just interested in whether or not it's too early or a good time to start planning some coverage of that, and what areas might have been discussed in terms of what might be included in that.
It does say just on that.
Sorry?
Just on that, if I may, just to cover that one. With respect, in order for internal audit to carry out a review, you've got to have a plan. We haven't got a plan yet for a local government review. So reform, yeah. So I would assert that it's probably way too early at the moment to look at what we're doing on LGR personally. But
okay, I mean, it is touched upon in the external audit in the next agenda item, and I know from looking at reports that have already been coming through from the executive that the looking forward to LGR has already been taken into account in terms of the risk planning within the organisation. So I guess it depends what you how you read devolution and local government review and whether or not that's... Well, it's a risk in terms of how we're going about our operations even now, and whether or not there are things that we should be looking into
Connor,
in terms of
what
that
would your view be, please?
Yeah, our intention is to include that in the planning discussions for next year's plan, but we imagine that until the actual model comes out, it's going to be difficult for us to know exactly what we can do in respect of LGR. But it will be something that we will be in conversations with management about, and it may feature possibly in the second half of next year.
Did you have another question, Charlotte?
It says in the text above the table that as the year progresses and additional audits are completed, coverage across key risk areas will increase. Planned coverage include, yes. So is it still anticipated that there might, you know, more of that there might be more population of this table, basically? Looking, I picked out LGR, which is possibly debatable as to whether or not that's so imminent, but pretty much looking down the rest of the list where there are blanks, I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't be looking at those as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor.
Yeah, so the items under planned coverage will, once the audits are done, obviously move over to the opposite side. So you will have, at the end of the year, more strategic risks being covered. But the reality is that with the size of the plan that we're operating, we can't cover all 17 or 18 strategic risks in 1 year. So we have to prioritise based on what our discussions with management hold. And some of the strategic risks that are here that aren't having any plan coverage this year have been covered in the last year or the year prior. So we're sort of taking a longer term view. What we possibly need to do is provide you with a table that really shows that a bit better.
Okay, thank you. Rob.
Thank you. It was really just picking up your point about extending dates. In my humble opinion, dates should only be extended where there's almost an extraordinary reason to do so. For example, I know the member of staff leaving and you accepting that you've got at least 4 months while you recruit a replacement, etc. If it's just, well, we haven't got round to it, we hope to do it within the next month, it should be shown as a month overdue. It shouldn't be re-baselined. It should be re-baselined for exceptional reasons, as you were saying, rather than as a matter of course.
Great. What does the SLT think to that?
Thank you, Chair. I don't disagree, and I think as we know, we have had some vacancies within the team, and we've also been trying to deliver business as usual, as well as, especially in some of the areas, some of the planned maintenance within housing as an example, trying to deliver the areas that we could have delivered in a different way over the previous years, and then with the transformation and local government reorganisation. So there are reasons, but I think it would probably be more helpful if we were clearer as to giving a reason as to why a deadline's been extended, and with Connor now sharing with us when those deadlines have been requested, we can then ensure that we put a matrix together to demonstrate that there's an appropriate reason for a deadline to be extended moving forward.
Thank you. Ollie.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking on page 21 and 22, and I was very surprised that we don't currently have a performance management framework. I would have thought we'd have had one in place ever since performance management was invented. And I feel that just holding it up and waiting for in phase, and I realise we've got no performance service manager at the moment as well, but I feel it should have been a priority to just draft something that would give a framework so that when managers are assessing staff, they've got some criteria to measure those against and some way of reporting or of recording actions to be undertaken. The other one that gives me a certain concern is training on data retention. And this, I feel, is another thing as a council that holds a considerable amount of data. We should really be on the ball about ensuring that we know when the deadlines have passed to delete data and no longer hold on to it. So I feel that training should also be a priority, and I just wonder if there are any plans to kind of try and plug the gaps in some way in the absence of in phase, which seems to be holding everything up, and kind of managers appointed and so on.
Thanks, Ollie. I think Mel dealt with the in-phase question a couple of minutes ago, but it's a fair point to reiterate it. But if
Shall
you'd
I
like
come
to,
in on the other two?
that'd be great. Thank you.
So in terms of the performance framework, as it says in here, we've got one drafted. The problem is we have no performance manager at the moment. So we are interviewing within the next couple of weeks, but obviously then there will be sort of notice periods and things. But it's literally, we don't have the staff in place to do the work. So, you know, as soon as we've got that, absolutely, that framework will be rolled out. Sorry, should I come back on the data question as well? Yes. So it's not that straightforward. So every local authority, as you can imagine, has hundreds of systems. And some systems you can set it up. It's I don't think it's that many systems, but they have a module which automatically deletes data after a certain period. Many of our systems don't have that, and they have years and years of data, and therefore every local authority is in this position that you have lots of historic data in there that haven't probably been maintained in the way that they should. And so therefore what we're doing as part of the Information Governance Board, the Information Governance Working Group, is we're risk assessing all of those systems, determining which ones have the most sensitive data in them, and then prioritising those areas. So that work is ongoing, but again, I've also not had a data protection manager permanent since February in the year. So again, I've just recruited somebody to that, and they're starting in December. So there's a lot going on, but unfortunately we've got huge gaps in some of our resourcing that we're trying to fill at the moment. And as soon as we've got those individuals in place, then those pieces of work will be progressed further.
Given those constraints, though, Mel, would it be reasonable to ask you, in due course, for the due date, and this would be one of those exceptionals that I would suggest, the due date for the data retention to be addressed and the new due date put in place so that we've got something to work towards?
We absolutely can, but it will be years.
Years.
Yes, because there's so many systems across the council, and hence why you do a prioritisation piece. So it will take some time, and obviously as part of LGR we want to get our data all in a very good place, but I just want to manage expectations with the number of systems you've got. And obviously years ago people weren't so good at, you know, making sure that you were keeping, and you know, we've got some very strong areas where that is absolutely happening all of the time, but some of the more archaic systems that, you know, there are areas where that hasn't
Councillor
happened.
Barlow first, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. How long have we not had a performance manager in post for now? And can you, when you're doing the thing that Ollie and Chris have just been talking about, this thing, could we have a percentage of where we're at so that we could have an update of how we're progressing, rather than like now it's still outstanding, you know, are we 50% there? Are we progressing? Are we actually improving the system, or is it getting progressively worse, or is that unrealistic?
Not unrealistic. I don't know if the system works that way. So on an old system I had, you had a little bar that you moved across to say a percentage. I don't think we have that on the audit system, do we? Now, whether we could include that in some commentary, but then everybody would need to be consistent about doing that. So I think it's more a system issue rather than, but yeah.
And sorry, how long have we not had a performance manager?
From July, I think, was the date off the top of my head, in July.
And when did we get the actual, did they write the programme, or sorry, not the programme, the report that?
They wrote the framework, but there was obviously a reason why they felt that they couldn't quite conclude it, because of the new performance system being rolled out. Presumably that framework covers the process in the new system. And obviously, we hadn't implemented at that point, so they've prepared it in draft, but it needs to be finalised once we've sorted out the issues with the system.
And we needed managers to do that, do we?
Well, yeah, we've got no staff in performance. We've only got one, we have no staff at all. So we've got two posts in that area and neither of them are filled. So
No one's being performed. No one's being looked at or checked. Is that right?
As far as the central office is concerned, there's no performance monitoring staff in a position to do that and no system to back them up. But as far as your normal line management responsibilities and actions and deliverables, that's being dealt with within the services.
sorry, because I was trying to click what you meant by your question. But also, just to reassure you, I'm still doing regular reports into Cabinet in terms of where we are on the council plan, where we are on certain things. So it's not like we're not doing anything, but we're obviously, without the full resource in there, we're having to do much less than we would normally be doing. But we are absolutely monitoring our actions.
Thank you, Mel. Rob.
Thank you. It was just going back to the information governance one. Whilst I fully understand and accept what you said about data in systems, the specific action that seems to be continually overdue is just about the training of people, and I'm not sure how, it was due originally in March 24. It then was September this year.
Could you tell me what page?
Sorry, page 22.
Thank you.
Item 2622. So whilst I accept, all sorts of old local government systems with all sorts of data in there, that's a whole different ball game entirely. Yeah. But this is just, there should be regular training on people's responsibilities, and it now being outstanding a year and a half, something like that, seems a bit odd.
Absolutely understand, but again, we've been reviewing the data retention policy, which on the back of that will then do training, because clearly you can't do training without the data retention policy being up to date. So I had an interim data protection officer over the summer who started to look at that, but because of the number of FOI requests and SARS that we're getting, unfortunately they couldn't complete that piece of work before they left. So I'm now obviously waiting for this new person to start in December. So yeah, I totally understand, and I don't disagree with you at all.
Councillor Good.
Okay, we've got to remember that in up to 2023, when the new council came, we didn't really have a very good performance management system. We know that. It was identified in scrutiny, and I worked very closely with Jo until she went, and we were making some really significant progress. And I want to give credit to her, because it was such a disappointment when she left. So I don't want anybody to leave this meeting thinking a lot hasn't been done, because it has been done. But I also agree we need to square the circle, or whatever it's called, so we do move forward. But we have done work, a lot of work, but we've got to finish it off.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, then we have a recommendation that the Audit and Governance Committee should note our progress against the 2025-26 Internal Audit Plan as of the 24th of October 25 and the findings reported. Just before I ask that question, just like to re-emphasise one thing that Connor said, which is in January, and this comes partly to the question that you raised, Charlotte, which is in January, we're going to be looking at the plan for the next half year and the forward plan for internal audit. So that's everybody's opportunity to feed into that process. So feed it into me, feed it directly to Connor if you like, or whatever. But that's, we're open to suggestion as to what should be covered. If there are particular areas of concern that you'd like or internal audit to focus on, then please, put those forward. But the plan gets set. The next opportunity for that is 6 months later. So we then look at the second half. So please make sure that you take that opportunity if there are areas of concern. But so going back to the question, is everyone happy to note this? I guess they are, in which case we move on, and it's duly noted. Thank you. So it brings us to item 8, which is the external audit progress report, and this is welcome Peter Barber from Grant Thornton. And Peter, over to you for an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. So this is our audit progress report and sector update. Members of the committee will be aware that at the last meeting of this committee back in September, we discussed the auditor's annual report, and at that juncture I also gave a brief verbal update on progress with the accounts for 24-25. This progress report in the main sets out the progress since then in terms of seeking to complete a full year's audit in relation to your 24-25 accounts. I have summarised the position as of 2 weeks ago on page 30 of your papers. But in summary, you will be aware that there's been lots of discussion at this committee about why the audit wasn't completed in the prior year, and lots of interest, which is very much appreciated from members of this committee as to what could be done differently. Whilst we are nowhere near completing the audit at the moment, I note a marked improvement in the arrangements in place within the council to firstly produce accounts in accordance with the deadline. So you did that for the first time in a number of years, where you produced the accounts by the 30th of June, and a marked improvement and significant increase in commitment to getting things right first time in terms of audit evidence and working papers. As I've put in this report, it is going well, and I am more optimistic now than I perhaps was at the start of the audit. That's not to say that the audit isn't without challenges, and there are numerous examples where we are having to go back numerous times to get the evidence that we want, but that evidence is forthcoming in the main. When I wrote this, that was 5 weeks into the audit. We're now 7 weeks. We're not quite where we want to be. We're slightly behind, but I think that needs to be taken in the context that this is the first time where we're trying to get through a full audit for a number of years. So I think members of this committee can take a lot of confidence and positivity from the improvements made and demonstrated already at this stage of the audit. The next 4 weeks will be very important, that we are now providing officers with more and more samples. Most of our sampling is done. We are aiming to increase the team capacity from next week, so there will be even more questions coming. And I do appreciate that that is difficult for the council, because officers are being pulled in lots of directions, particularly the finance staff. You've got us asking lots of your finance people, and we have done for 7 weeks. They have the small matter of managing the ongoing budget for 25-26, and then the small matter of preparing the budget for full council in February for 26-7, as well as LGR and everything else. So this is I'm hoping this is a positive message in this report that you can take away, but clearly there is some way to go. Initially, I had resource in to support the audit up until the end of December. That wasn't ever going to be enough to deliver the full audit, but what I wanted to do was make sure that sufficient progress was being made before I committed any more resource. In discussion with Simon and the finance team, I have now agreed to provide more resource early into the new year, and we will continue to work with finance officers to see how far we can get, with the aspiration of delivering a full audit by the end of January, recognising that the backstop deadline is the end of February. So that is the key message from this progress report. As I said, it is also a sector update. So, Chair, there is lots of stuff towards the back of this report that reflects articles both by Grant Thornton, but also by other third parties as well that may be of interest to this committee, and for that matter, wider members. I'm not minded to talk to those, but I'm happy to take any questions, importantly on the accounts, but also the progress report and the sector update, if there are any.
Thank you, Peter. Questions? Ian.
Thank you, Peter. You say that at the time of drafting this report 2 weeks ago, this report, some of the remaining outstanding, we are continuing to chase management for the remaining requests, which will become more critical in the next couple of weeks, given the increased size of the audit team. Obviously, that's now the critical stage. So are we getting the answers from the management? Do you need any assistance in helping to chase the management?
So I think it's fair to say that the last 2 weeks there's been less information received in the last 2 weeks. The exception to that is probably the last 3 days. There has been another round of discussions with senior officers at the council, and we're meeting far more regularly than we did in prior years. And there's been a lot of information received in the last 3 days. So an awful lot has come through in the last 3 days. There are still some things that have been on there for some time on Inflow, which is our document management system sharing platform, that we still haven't received. Up until now, because we've got all the different elements of the audit to do, my team have been able to juggle multiple tasks, but at some stage it will become critical that those are provided, and I will continue to speak with officers if that is not forthcoming.
Thank you. And is this sorry, I don't want to put, but is this you, Simon, or is this general management across different departments you're talking to? And is there a certain department that isn't coming up trumps? I mean, again, is this something that we should be getting involved more in trying to point out who isn't doing what?
So I will reiterate what I said in my introduction, which is that we are receiving much more timely quality responses than we have in prior years, but we're still not getting everything in a timely manner. Most of those requests, not exclusively, but most of those requests are predominantly financed officer based. And that's the reason why I put that in context about their stretched capacity. That's been compounded in part by sickness as well, but it is the finance officers that ultimately are the key people for providing this information.
And going forward, would it be better next year that you perhaps started earlier rather than wait until they're really busy, because obviously it's their budget thing? And I know you said, I think previously you said you did councils where they were good and all the rest of it, you did them first. If you know they're good and they've got all the information, why don't you push them at the stretch time and let us, who perhaps need a little bit more input into it because we're not as up to date as those other councils, why not let us have a little bit of wiggle room in the earlier times when we've got a bit more time, rather than wait until we're under a huge amount of pressure all at the same time?
So I'm more than happy to discuss next year once we're further progressed with this year. All I would say is we didn't, whilst I referenced the fact that we started our detailed post-statements visit at the end of September, just to reassure everybody that there was ongoing dialogue in the intervening period and there was work undertaken both between us and officers. So we didn't start at the end of September from a blank piece of paper. Lots of things have been progressed. One of the areas I reference in here is the bank reconciliation, which was a real issue for last year, because as we've all discussed previously within this committee, it is integral to the financial statements. That bank reconciliation work started almost immediately after the year-end position when you'd produced your 31st of March 25 bank rec. Now, we're not quite there still. There are some queries outstanding, but we're very, very close and it's massively improved, and I have confidence that we have a bank rec, which is fundamental for the integrity of the accounts. There are various other reconciliations and early discussions we had on things like property, plants and equipment and the council dwellings that we discussed in July, August time. We just need to remember that the deadline for producing the accounts is the end of June. Clearly, that is your priority as a council, to produce those accounts. You hadn't produced them in prior years. So finance officers are working pretty flat out in producing those accounts. Then it's a question of actually supporting the audit process. And we discussed and we had ongoing dialogue about you populating the inflow system, the data management system, with the working papers. There was further dialogue, but the key visit started in the end of September. A efficient district council audit should take, if it goes particularly well and for those that are really slick at it, that we're able to get cleared early, 2.5 months. So if we start at the end of September, we're looking at the whole of October, November, and realistically December, given December is Christmas. What I'm doing now is I'm extending that resource through to January, because I think with that extra push, we can get there. Now, that's my objective, and no doubt the objective of officers as well. That's my priority. As to whether we changed the timing of the work next year, that is a dialogue I'm happy to have. I think there is more scope to do that dipping in and dipping out in the July, August, September period. That gives us an even stronger footing to undertake the detailed visit, but I cannot promise that you will be in phase one next year, because there are lots of councils who have a long track record of delivering very efficiently, and we like to get them out of the way first. Ultimately, and looking further ahead, the deadline moves from the end of February in 26, 27. All audits will need to be signed off by the end of November 27. So that is ultimately the position we need to be working at. And the other factor to take into consideration is, what are we trying to get to by the end of February this year? It is an audit that says we've tested everything in terms of in-year transactions, all income and all expenditure, that we've tested as much as the closing balance as possible, recognising there will be a technical qualification because of the opening balances. Now, next year, if it goes well this year, I'll be saying we want to do a full audit again, plus a little bit extra to catch up on that assurance in as quick a time as possible. So there is lots of discussions to have, but I think we have to, both us and this committee, focus on the current year, 24-25.
Which you're going to complete on time.
Which hopefully we and the council are going to complete on time by continuing to work together.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Ollie, please. And then
Yeah, well, thanks, Peter. You've already touched on the question I was going to ask, actually, was that this year, 31st of March 2025, we've been able to you've been able to be provided with a bank reconciliation and all the papers that were required, and obviously you're testing a sample of those. Was that in fact essential in order to comply with the government backstop and to ensure that we had a reasonable set of accounts to produce this year? Was that an essential bit of work that had to be completed?
Sorry, Councillor, I'm having trouble. But, so ultimately, the backstop is applied where we've not been able to get assurance over the completeness of a set of accounts. So clearly, you need to produce a set of accounts. And you know, the accounts are complicated. They're very long, they're detailed, they take a lot of time to do. So the fact that you've produced the accounts by the end of June, 3 months after the reporting date, is a big step up and progress from prior years. In order to produce a set of accounts, the logic is that you need a proper bank rec that fully supports the integrity of those accounts, because if you haven't got a bank rec, then begs the question, how can the general ledger, the trial balance agree back to the accounts in the first place? So the integrity is there through the bank rec and the trial balance. I've also referred in this report to the fact that we've been able to reconcile the accounts back to the trial balance and the general ledger, which is another important task to do, because what it does, it enables us to pick those samples from populations that we're confident are correct. So that all lends itself to an effective start to the audit process. So ultimately, things are much better this year, and I think you can take confidence. But as I said, the audit process is very involved, rightly or wrongly, and there's lots of information we need to get all those areas over the line. Without that bank rec, I can't do the in-year stuff. And it makes it harder to do the balance sheet type items as well.
okay, thanks. Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. Taking advantage of the fact that I didn't attend the training, I'm going to ask a very naive question. Historically, the accounting function would look after IT, and when end-of-year accounts and auditing was conducted, it was quite possible to qualify the accounts on the basis that the IT was at risk or not up to scratch and so on. Is that in any way still the case now? Would you qualify according to risks, or do you not cast your net that wide?
It's a good question. So When it comes to auditing accounts, irrespective of the sector, auditors have options in terms of how they approach it. So many auditors will go down a controls and substantive route, which means that they will look at the controls that operate over the financial transactions. So they will look at the key financial systems, they will walk through them, and they will test those controls to see if they operate in practice. And if they can get confidence over the effectiveness of the controls, they will often use IT auditors to get that assurance. What it enables them to then do is reduce the amount of detailed substantive testing that they do at year end. Historically, within local government, auditors generally adopt a fully substantive approach. So what we do is we don't rely on controls generally. We wait till we get those draft accounts, we receive them, and we substantively test them. We test those numbers to make sure we're confident that those are materially accurate. It means we do bigger sampling, but it is a more efficient way of getting it. Now, the problem with controls testing is that if you do controls testing and those controls are not effective, that work doesn't help you at all, because you can't place reliance in it, therefore you have to do a substantive approach anyway. So what we do is we adopt a substantive approach. That doesn't mean we don't look at IT systems. We do use IT auditors, we do come in, we do walk through the key systems, but we don't place any reliance on them. We substantively test based on a risk approach.
Thank you. Councillor Goodman.
Yes, when you said that we haven't succeeded, didn't quite put it like that, in getting the accounts in last year and previous years. But is it not true to say the work that this committee and Simon and his team have done by working with you, perhaps for the first time, we're in a much better position now to deliver what we need to deliver and not have a backstop than we would have been if this committee in particular didn't do all the work in trying to set out what we needed to do? Because that wasn't there in previous years, was it? It is now, so we're in the best position we could be in. Is that a fair assumption?
So Councillor, we're in a much better position than we were this time last year, and there are a number of reasons for that. And I think there is a change in the relationship that's been influenced by by ourselves, by officers, by members of this committee. All of those, we realised, everybody, that we need to all work together to get to the common goal. I'm not going to sign those accounts till I'm absolutely 100% confident those are materially accurate. I'm not going to change on that, but it's a lot easier for me to come along in January and say, right, here's my opinion, everything's fine this year, I'm qualifying purely because of the opening balances, than to come along in January and February and say, yeah, it's a massive improvement, but we didn't quite get there. And I don't want to be doing the latter thing, but there is a journey that we're on, and we're not there yet, and we are part way through it. And the next 4 weeks before Christmas and that time after Christmas will be equally as important to make sure that we are able to get to that position that we all want. And I think hopefully if we get to that position, we can all take credit, but we're not there yet.
We've heard a lot from Peter and the Grant Thornton side of things. I think it's only fair, given that we've got a couple of officers in the room who might have their view, to hear what how they feel the audit's going as well at this stage. So, who would like to go? John, he's dumped you in it, John. It's over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I really don't mind. It gives me the opportunity, if nothing else, just to say on record, really a big thank you to the team. It is been challenging for lots of reasons, but the team have been working extremely hard in what is always a busy time of year for us. They certainly have gone that extra mile to complete these audits. So in terms of a general update, I think it is going well. The team are working well. The team are working well with the auditors. There are new requirements that take a little bit more time to get to the bottom of, to be honest. So, sometimes there are genuine delays in that, third-party information, things of that nature. but generally speaking, it is going well. We are confident as a team. You know, we are setting our own targets to get this complete. Yeah, and you know, we've, dare I say it, we've even started to think about the next audit and how we're going to structure that. Already learning lessons, shorter deadlines, how we're going to structure the team itself even to help with that. One thing I did want to share is just in, the system that we share in terms of the audit files is inflow that Peter referred to. So just to put some context on the numbers, there's more queries outside of just this system, but in terms of where we stand today, there's 6 outstanding requests with the team. There's 25 requests that are in progress, so ones that we're working on. There's 173 requests that have gone back. And as we stand, there's 39 that have been completed and signed off. So just gives you a sort of feeling, if nothing else, of kind of like the very large numbers of requests going back and forth that we're working with the auditors with to get to the bottom of, to get this signed off and completed. Chair, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to also register my thanks and congratulations to the team on both sides, really, for working so well together. And it has been a step change, evidently, in this. Also, I mean, buried deep into the detail here is the emphasis that because we have been backstopped for so long, there is more to do in this one audit. And therefore, you know, the pressure is on, and this makes it harder than a normal audit, if you like. So there's a lot more to do to get this through and over the line, this, you know, in one go. There's reasons why we've been backstopped before, and it's because actually it's hard, it's difficult at a busy time of year. But you know, I really congratulate the focus that has been brought to bear and this year, and yeah. We are chalk and cheese from where we were. But Councillor Barlow.
Talking about LGR earlier and the risks of that, does it make any difference when we get to handing over to our new unitary, when we go across and say, we've got no accounts, take us as we are, or not? Well, that's a fair comment. And also, how many are in John's team, please?
So there's one for John. How many's in your team? And there's one for Simon, I would attest.
Down numbers in his team, so I'll go.
He needs an abacus.
I'll go for the LGR question then. Yeah, you would want a signed off statement of accounts presented in that amalgamation of the next authority. Well, yeah, I mean, accounts are produced, and we have produced accounts every year, but without that audit stamp on top of it, there could be errors, there could be queries in there. So you'd want that, bringing the councils together, that assurity.
Okay, and John, numbers?
Try and explain. There's me, so that's -1. There's 2 principal accountants, but one of them, in theory, looks after close down. There's 4 accountants, but they've obviously got their day jobs to do. There's 3 assistant accountants as well within the team.
Thank you. Okay. Also, just whilst we're on this subject before we get to the recommendation, but on page 34 and 38 of this of the Grant Thornton report of our packs, I'd just like to bring the committee's attention. There's some recommendations there for reading from Grant Thornton's publications, which one of which is lessons from the 23-24 annual audit reviews. And page 38 is learning from unitary authorities that have already been created, which I think must be fascinating bedtime reading for all concerned. I'm a cusp away from making it mandatory for the next next agenda, but I'd thoroughly recommend that we at least open those, have a look at them, scan through them if you must, but no, not in the context of one of your speeches. So. It's just a matter for noting. At the moment, I don't think there's a recommendation with this, but thank you, Amanda. So we have noted the external report, and thanks again to Peter for his input in this. Okay, comes us to agenda item 9, Strata Annual Internal Audit Report. And this is from DAP, it's pages 57 to 67 in our packs. And this is a report from Joe McCormick. We welcome Joe. Nice to see you. From DAP. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. So, Joe McCormick from Devon Assurance Partnership. We provide the audit work that we do for Strata, which is your IT provider. We normally would do 2 reviews across Strata each year. Same process in terms of audit planning on risk areas, and we decide on what those reviews are in collaboration with Strata, but also looking at some key risks that they would face. So over the course of 24-25, we did 2 reviews. One was an ICT cyber event, and then the second one was a service design and operation efficiency piece of work. So today the report is bringing together sort of the annual report for those 2 pieces of work that we did over 24-25. The report in front of you gives you some detail on those 2 areas that we've looked at. I'll just give a little bit of detail. Just looking at the ICT cyber event. So what we did with Strata for this, we did facilitate sort of a theoretical ICT cyber loss workshop. So getting key officers together and actually facilitating sort of an event if that was to happen. And that just gives you some assurances there on what we did and some outcomes from that. The second piece of work that we looked at across the year, which was the service design and operational efficiency work. So that was looking at the risk that the service is not designed to deliver its intended strategic or operational outcomes. It doesn't have the resources in terms of the financial and human capital to deliver their critical services, and therefore doesn't deliver their services within the allocated budgets. So the report in front of you just gives you a bit of a summary on the findings there and some areas of consideration that we gave back to Strata in terms of that report. You'll see that both pieces of work have been finalised in year, and we have given a reasonable level of opinion across both areas of work, which is a good level of assurance to be giving. That gives an overall assurance opinion for our end of year report as reasonable. So that's sort of the highlights I wanted to take you through. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on the work performed in year.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow?
Thank you, Chair. I noticed on the cyber event, which obviously is very important these days, that there was collective agreement on the need to take further action. These have been outlined in the full report to President Strata. Have you followed up on them, and have they been actioned?
Through you, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, so as part of our work, then we do follow-up work where we feel it's required. Obviously, this outcome of this report was a reasonable level of assurance, so we won't do a detailed piece of work where we're reporting back to Strata or the committee on that, but we do have conversations with them in order to understand how they've taken those forward. We would do follow-up work more if it's a limited or no assurance piece of work that we need to provide further assurance back to the committee.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just finish
just
on
quickly? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say, so you have chats about it, so are you happy that they have done the actions or taken the further action that you outlined in agreement with them, collective agreement?
That work forms part of the plan for 25-26, so that's something that we're formulating at the moment, which will be concluded by the end of March.
Okay, thanks. Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. Great report. It's succinct, it's short. Dare I say, slightly stilted in public sector speak. So, for example, you say there has been a growing trend in the sector towards more flexible audit plans. This is page 60. To enable internal audit to be more responsive to changing risks, concluding with agile auditing. And that is absolutely commendable. But it doesn't say what's being done about it. It just raises it as a topic. Has it been adopted, or is this a proposal, or what?
It's a very good point. In terms of our plan for strata, so we would normally do 2 reviews across the piece for strata, and we would agree what those reviews are in terms of risk-based planning before the financial year starts. In terms of agile planning, we refer to if we are in year, and we would then review those risks. So we may have carried out one piece of work, but actually let's have a look at the risks. Is there any changes to that in terms of the risk landscape? And therefore we might adopt the second piece of work that we're doing throughout the year, or we may suggest actually a third piece of work may be beneficial in terms of giving assurance on some key risks. So that agile approach is making sure that we're having those constant conversations throughout the year with strata to ensure that there isn't something that we're missing in terms of things that come up in year rather than before the year starts. Is that helpful?
It is helpful, but there's a series of about 4 questions altogether. You say lower down, it should be noted some audits require a richer mix of staff resource due to the complexity and sensitivity of the area under review. Is that a more sort of sophisticated team on DAP or at Strata? And are you saying, again, is it just an idea? Is it a requirement that has been fulfilled, or is it an outstanding requirement?
You, Chair. In terms of the work that we do for Strata, it would be IT auditors that are assigned to the work we're doing. So they are specialist staff with qualifications within that area. So although I'm here presenting today, the team is made up of an IT assurance manager and an IT senior auditor who carries out the work for Strata, because they've got that technical ability in terms of the work that we do for Strata.
So I understand that you are deploying the necessary skill sets. Good, good. But one of the reasons why I'm chasing that down is that today, in fact, it's over the horizon, but it's coming at us very fast. We know about the state-sponsored terrorisms on cyber and what have you. But any planned aggression will not dribble that through. They'll test and test, and then they'll do it all at once. And we need to be alert to that, and MI6 is actually pointing towards that, and so on. So the idea of agile auditing, agile capability for dealing with cyber activity, it is absolutely essential, because we cannot wait for policies to be developed, then put in the process and come out in 2 years' time. So I just want to recommend that entire concept. It's vital. I think that Strata is extremely good. I'm sorry, that's a personal opinion. But what I read in this is that they are making a plea, and they're straining at the leash to try and bring into play some better elements. On Appendix 1, areas for consideration, they say, I should lead by saying that they point out that corporate risk management remains a responsibility of the council, not them, and that it is for us to be satisfied that we maintain adequate level of control to mitigate risks, etc. That's in the lead-in. And here on Appendix 1, page 61, under areas of consideration, first bullet point, they say a joint mechanism security function will assist the council, I think that's in setting risk appetite, ensuring compliance and managing strategic security risks, etc. I think they're asking whether there could be some platform with a slightly executive function, I believe, to give them a better lead, a more dynamic lead, responsive to what's out there to try and retain control, which is, of course, the council's responsibility. I just urge that that particular bullet point is given quite a lot of emphasis, and perhaps a discussion ought to take place following it up with strata.
Mel, is it appropriate for us to bring that up at the Information Governance Board? Because we have Robin from Strata there regularly. I mean, we meet a couple of times a year, don't we? 3 times a year on the Governance Board. So we can bring that up on there and put it on the agenda for that, if that's okay, Amanda. If we can make a note of that. Yeah, please. Thank you. Fabian, can you just highlight for Amanda's benefit the bullet point that was specifically...
It's page 61, under areas for consideration. There are 3 bullet points. I refer to the first.
Got it, thanks. Rob?
I think it sort of links on to that point. I have a slight concern, and it's more a feeling, and perhaps probably a completely incorrect feeling, but previous conversations in this committee has been, oh, you know, Strata deal with the IT and they'll be audited separately, and we've now got an audit report, but it sort of says, yeah, we're doing okay, but actually the strategic responsibility is the council's, and I get the feeling that there's 2 stools and no one absolutely owning what is arguably one of your largest corporate risks. And I'm not sure that as an independent person, I get a warm, fuzzy feeling that, you know, you look at the depth of the audit report, you know, the internal audit report, you then look at this, there's no reflection on that, just what we're being presented with. And it's, well, for one of your major areas, it seems light, I think, is the way.
Yeah.
The second one I'd like to bring up, and it's not really anything to do with this report, but I decided to bring it up here because I no other place to do it. I would be very interested, if possible, at the next meeting, and I appreciate I'm not a member of this committee, just a thing, as to what the council is doing around PSTN switch off. Again, an amount of that will fall to Strata, but I would imagine that the telecoms, for example, for this building are fine because it's a new building and was, you know, probably digital from day one. But I would imagine that the council has lots of, you know, alarms at leisure centres and you know, possibly stuff on the HRA stuff and other facility stuff, which I doubt Strata are managing. You're not going to have the same sort of problem that someone like the county council with all the traffic stuff will have. But I'd be very interested, given that that's only a year away, what is there a coordinated project to pick that up, and what's being done about it? Because
okay, sure. On PSTN, then I guess that's the switching off of the copper network to you know, domestic and commercial. So do we have a strategy on dealing with that? And if so, who is John? No? Yeah, officers really. A question for the officers. They're all looking puzzled, so that emphasises your concern.
I think it's something we need to follow up. There definitely was, and it was something that Strata was following up with us and did an assessment, and there are different pockets within the council in terms of, you're quite right, home safeguard, areas like that, that we have been approaching and dealing with. But I think it's a good idea to just take stock, see where we are on that. I think also through the chair, if you don't mind, I think the point raised about what DAP cover, what SWAP cover, I think is a really good point, and perhaps there is a conversation to be had between DAP, SWAP and myself to make sure we've got that overview and just make sure we have got it covered off, if that's okay.
Thank you. Yeah, just on that, we'll come to a couple of other councillors in a moment. The thing that strikes me is, and it's no reflection, and I'm sure this is something that you guys do because DAP are big as well, but what we get with SWAP is we get the intro, if you like, which demonstrates the risk-based platform that's being used for prioritising the work. And as you might have seen from the earlier internal audit report, we have 17 strategic risk areas that have been identified by ELT. Thank you, not SLT, ELT, and the organisation. And we can prioritise our work and our analysis and our internal audit on focusing on those on a risk-based approach. We don't have visibility, and we're not saying that it isn't in place, but we don't have visibility from your report in this. So what would be very useful is to have visibility of, if it exists, Strata's risk-based or strategic list of strategic risks, and how many of those are being covered on an annual basis, because they might have 3 and you're covering 2. But if they've got 17 and you're covering 2, that implies to me that this is light. And the report itself is not light. The focus and resource that's being given to it is light, and therefore that is emphasising more risk to us. To take Simon's point, I absolutely think that getting the heads in the same room, so to speak, even if it's online, would be a great thing to make sure that Rob's point is covered, where we're not seeing things drop between the stools on whose responsibility is where does one stop and one start, because that is a big risk for us. But on having said all that, Ollie, you had something you wanted to say?
A bit of a follow-up to Rob's question, really. The cyber event workshop that was carried out that involved Strata and us, presumably, in that, it says it's partners, on the 7th of January. I just wanted to ask, because so many cyber events are actually triggered, if not by human error, human carelessness, shall we say, and almost rely on that. I just wonder how often our staff are trained on cybersecurity and the kind of risks involved in that.
Yes, please. Yeah,
Thank you. So yes, we had a specific cyber training this year. We basically sent an email out to all staff to see if they clicked on a particular button and gave their details, and that was across the 3 areas. And then on the back of that, there was training sessions that staff had to undertake. We are also getting, as the chair has alluded to, we're getting regular reports to the Information Governance Board as well, in terms of cyber and the work that's being done on cyber from Strata. So it's very much at the forefront of our mind. But you're absolutely right. It's something that you've got to constantly, keep updating on, so that people are aware.
Thank you. Councillor Loudon first, and then. Fabian. Yeah.
Thanks. You triggered me to air a question which I held back from, because really it is perhaps for Strata. But is there in place a damage control, a recovery plan? Is there any good? Great. Good.
Absolutely. And so Strata work very closely with with Dave Whedon, I forget what his title is, but work with business continuity and within our council. And in fact, we had a session last week or the week before in terms of business continuity and cyber. And that type of thing was very much, if the IT went down, we very much talked about all the steps that we would need to take. So we have practices, basically, to look at these things. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes on in relation to that area.
Thank you. Councillor Loudon, you fixed up with the microphone now?
Sorry, I think I'm going to come up as Councillor Barlow. Apologies.
That's what I was going to say.
I just wanted to come back on the point that Councillor King raised and the monitoring officers just touched on, as you did, and that's the bit in the audit report that talks about where Strata, where it alludes to the fact that Strata say they're not involved in security forums, boards of their partners, i.e. us. And I've just, you and I, Chair, sit alongside the monitoring officer and a number of other officers on the Information Governing Board, as has been alluded to. And I've just gone, I'm sat here thinking, this doesn't feel right to me, unless I'm completely missing the point of what's in the report here. Because every time we have an Information Governance Board, one of the items, I think it's a standing item, is worse the effect of security breaches and cyber attacks and all of that. And, you know, we sat and we listened and we heard the other day from a representative of Strata, you know, some interesting feedback. Let's leave it like that. And I've gone to the terms of reference of the Information Governance Board, and it says in there, blah, 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 receiving reports of information data breaches and security incidents and identifying and implementing areas for improvement. And one of the members of the standing members of the board is a representative of Strata. So there is at least one opportunity for us to have an engagement with Strata over security issues. Now, whether that is the appropriate point for whatever it is that is being identified, it's not for me to say. But I just thought, Chair, it would be wrong not to identify that. And I suspect other colleagues are going to reference other places as well. But thank you for allowing me to come back in and take Councillor Barlow's place.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I brought this up before, of the risk of Strata. In fact, it wasn't really the risk, it was the cost of Strata that I bring up, because that's my thing. And there is a Strata Joint Executive Committee that Councillor Arnott is the leader on, who is supposed to. The problem with it is, and I pointed it out before, I think it met for 15 minutes, and that's about all it does, once a quarter. But there is also a Strata Joint Scrutiny Committee, which I believe you are actually a reserve on. So, you know, these are things that at the end of the day, I would have thought that would be the place that you would be looking at that in the scrutiny of Strata.
Councillor King, thank you.
If I may come back, thanks for that. That's illuminating and had to be said. I just point to two points made in this report, which are saying, could we do something? It says, could we emphasise the need for agile performance, and could we think of a security board or council? So they are asking. So it's great. It's good news. They are wanting to do more. And I think in these times, that needs to be given consideration, and you've said that it will be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Goodman?
Yes, I'm glad Ian's taken what I was going to say. I think that what I would add to that, I think that we've identified those issues today. Would it not be right for this committee to write to the Strata Joint Executive Committee expressing our concern about what's in this audit, and really to get to them what's their plan, because it's not in our brief. It's the Strata that've got to do it, have got to take action, and we want to make sure that this audit, which should be seen by the Joint Executive Committee, make sure they take action.
Do we think that's the right forum to write to? Because I suspect the Joint Executive Committee will be just looking at the year-end accounts and not really looking at it at an operational level.
There is a Strata Joint Scrutiny Committee, which I think should be the one that would scrutinise Strata and come up with, is it right what they're doing? Can they improve it? Can they make it more agile? And that would be the one that I would have thought you want to.
Yeah, Rob.
Whilst you may have perfectly adequate arrangements for the management of Strata, my strong opinion, and I think it would absolutely be backed up by legislation, is you as an authority, as an organisation, bear the responsibility for information governance and information security. You can't, you can have someone help deliver it with you, but you retain the responsibility for it. As such, presumably this committee is responsible for performing scrutiny of your acceptable arrangements, be that on the information governance side, be it on the information security side, and Strata is a major component of that, but it's not the sole component of that. I think what I was trying to put, and the bit that's been taken away, is in my limited time here as an independent person, for such a major area, I'm increasingly concerned because what's come to my visibility as an independent person doesn't go anywhere near deep enough, and where we have had information governance stuff because of people, not being imposed and all the rest of it, we have outstanding action. So actually, on the whole, major part of your responsibilities, there seems to be a continuing lightness, whether it's strata related, whether it's information governance related, and that concerns me, I have to say.
Mel, do you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the reasons why the Information Governance Board was set up. So the Information Governance Board was set up to make sure that the board has oversight of all of these things. And as we've already alluded to, we're getting some very good reporting from Strata in terms of cyber security, breaches, that type of thing. In terms of information governance generally, whilst we have got actions, I just want to reassure the committee that we've got lots of policies and procedures in place. It's just that they need updating. It's not that we don't necessarily, we've got most things covered. It's just that they need updating. And as you say, we've had some gaps, so we haven't been able to follow through some of those actions. But absolutely, the whole reason that the board was set up, and I think that was about a year ago, and the Information Governance Working Group that sits underneath that and meets monthly, those two have a key role and they sit under this committee. So I entirely agree with you that it sits with this committee because those boards effectively, that board reports into this committee.
I think that's probably the key. It sounds like it's there, but I think the missing component is perhaps that board should be doing a periodic report to this committee or whatever.
May I? Yes, we've got a report that was signed off at the last board a couple of weeks ago, which will be coming onto the agenda next time.
Thank you. Right, if there's no more on that, I just want to pick up, if I may, Joe, one item at the bottom of page 61. It's on the service design and operational efficiency. The final bullet point says project prioritisation is managed operationally through a portfolio board. However, there is no prioritisation framework criteria to guide the ranking tiering of projects. I just let that sink in. This is an IT company. How do you prioritise your projects? What is it? Last person screaming? Friend of the chief exec? What is it? We invest an awful lot of money, time and resources and hope and expectation in projects that are being run through Strata. How do we have the confidence that they're going to deliver to the timeframes when there's no project prioritisation going on?
I think the way I read it, Chair, is that there is prioritisation within Strata. What they're saying is they don't tie that back in their prioritisation to the council's strategic responsibilities, which just ties in what we've already discussed. It would be, I would see your Information Governance Board saying these are our priorities and feeding that into Strata.
Can I just reassure you that we do have that? So we have an internal architecture board that meets on a monthly basis that considers prioritisation, Strata in attendance at that meeting. And then we obviously have the Strata architecture board where the client leads from each of the councils attend, and we obviously make decisions on each project that's going forward and the project timetable for that. So I'm a bit confused about that wording, but we definitely do have that structure and we have regular discussions at the internal architecture board. So prioritisation, we've just done it in fact and we're just about to have all of the projects and what Strata think is the priority for us to consider as part of their business case. And we will be, I've got a meeting that I'm due to be having with them to sort of agree that. So I do think that structure is there. So apologies.
Maybe, Joe, you could pick this up with Strata as feedback from this committee, just to get clarification on that. And bearing in mind as well what Mel's just said, it sounds like we wouldn't agree with that particular bullet point from the way it's, you know, it's maybe a criticism that's unwarranted. So that's the feedback that that this committee seems to be giving. Councillor Barlow.
I just want to, can you tell me, what are we doing now about this then? Are we going to take any things to either, other than that obviously, but to Strata about the security, etc., going forward? So should we be talking to the people that sit on their scrutiny board? I understand what you're saying about this is our responsibility to our thing. I totally agree with that. And we are very reliant on them. We do pay them a huge amount of money. But no one's quite sure exactly what they do, because at the end of the day, it's IT, and when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't, it's horrible. So, but I would like some assurance that we are looking into this, and it's a matter of how we're going to do that. It's all very well us talking here and it goes away, and then we forget about it because we don't meet till next March.
So, Mel's just said that she's got confidence that Strata are prioritising on a council basis. So, you know, that's what calls into question that particular bullet point. Joe's going to take that away as feedback from here. We're also going to, I've written down, we're going to bring up at the Information Governance Board with the Strata representative about the particular question of where does one stall start and one responsibility stop, so that we make sure that that's on the agenda for the next IG board with Strata's representative with us. So that's what I've got, and also the bullet point that Fabian's raised. So that's going to be brought up on the at the same time as well, isn't it? So those are the actions that I've got. Yeah, Fabian.
Sorry, can I just query what you said, Mel? Architecture is one facet of ICT and IT, but there is also security projects. Is that included in architecture? I'm not sure it is. So there is a portfolio of projects, and the architecture board is certainly a main aspect of the interaction between the contractor and ourselves.
Yeah, I think you raise a valid point, because you're right. It is about, you know, architectural projects. So I think that's probably one I'd need to take away and have a conversation with Strata about.
Could I also just chip in? Sorry, microphone.
I think the report was very good, and a success is in that it flushed all this out.
So just coming with a final point before we move on to the next agenda item, you raised a good point about the planning cycle in terms of the work. So what we can do moving forward, earlier in the year, November's too late, but if we were to come to an earlier meeting in the year, we can feed back on the year end and also feed in the planning for the year ahead. Just to give you some reassurances now, the work that we plan to do during this year for Strata, we're doing a framework review on technology, and just to give you a bit of a high-level summary on what that includes, and so this what we'll be feeding back at the year end. So it focuses on the design and overview of the technology framework, and it will assess how technology governance is structured, how risks are managed, and how technology supports the organisations, their partners, and their strategic digital ambitions. So that's something we are looking at. The framework reviews have been incorporated by our IT assurance manager, who obviously specialises in this area, and these reviews can then bring out areas for further audit work. So we're hoping that this review then will identify areas where further assurance is needed or some weaknesses are identified, and then that can then lead on to further work in the audit plan that we would recommend back to Strata.
Okay, everyone happy with that? Okay, so again, this is there's no action for us to undertake a vote. Oh, sorry, Charlotte. Yeah.
Do you think it's worth a line on the next audit committee agenda about this? Because it seems there's quite a lot of ties being left untied, and it would be worth revisiting this.
I think that's a great thing for us to suggest when we get to the forward plan, Charlotte, which is imminent. Thank you. Okay, but thank you, Joe. Thank you for your input in that. It's very valuable, and we appreciate the opportunity to discuss the reports with you as well. Thank you. So the report's noted, and we move on to item 10, which is the Partnership Register Annual Review. And yep, that's going to be presented by Mel. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Gemma Roberts prepared the report, but she can't be here today. So basically, this is a report that we committed to bring by the end of the financial year, giving you an update on the partnership register. So a review was conducted at the end of last financial year of all of our partnerships and the benefits that our continued engagement with them have. So what you've got in front of you are details of the 22 active partnerships that we have, what we feel the benefits of continuing to engage with those partnerships are, and a bit of information in some circumstances about the annual cost of the partnership to the council. Probably not much more that I can say on that, but happy to open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Mel. Does anybody have any questions on this report? Yes, Councillor Goodman.
Yeah, my memory serves me right that SWP also looked at partnerships, and I'm just wondering what communication there was between the SWP report that they did, the audit, and this report, and are we actually saying with this report that there is no changes for what we agreed in 2024 regarding the main focus of the report? I take it there's no changes.
No, I don't believe there's been any changes since that review. Right. Absolutely. But obviously, officers are asked to regularly keep that register up to date.
Yeah.
Okay. Your microphone, please, Mike.
Sorry.
Councillor Goodman. No? Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'll move on. Thank you. It's just for us to note, and we duly note it. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that. So we move on to item 11, which is indeed, Charlotte, your moment in the sun, the Audit and Governance Committee Forward Plan for 25-26. It says here, are members happy to note the forward plan for approval? Charlotte, you're suggesting that...
You're teeing me up there,
yes, thank
Chair.
you.
I'm not entirely sure what I'm asking for. An update, thank you, with a focus on the sort of reporting lines and how, yeah, thank you.
Are we okay to note that, please? Yeah, we'll have a report. Yes, Peter.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, if we could, on the 29th of January meeting, I think we've got reference there to the External Auditor's annual report. If that could be the audit findings report for 24-25, summarising the outcome of our audit of the accounts, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, Rob.
Melanie said that we also might expect at the next meeting the report from the Information Governance Group, but that's not on there either. So.
Yep, we'll add that on. Thank you. A good spot. Someone's listening. It's great. Councillor Barlow.
Just about going back to the strata thing, do we want something in there about not just who's responsible, whatever, but how our side is? Are we happy with our security? Because that's the only thing we should be worried about, really. That's the risk to this council, is much as their risk, they will be responsible for their risk, I presume, but we need to be responsible for our risk.
So, yes, should go to the board first. Yeah, and then the board will report in due course on that. But I think we should have the Information Governance Board, and then we'll have a report from the board. it's kind of for the board to generate that.
And when's that likely to be, please, Chair?
At the next IG meeting.
Remember when the ex... Oh, you're not doing it anymore, are you? About
So,
2.5 months.
yeah, it's likely to be around about March. We'll look to see if we can get it onto the forward plan for the 19th of March. So a report from the Information Governance Board on Strata's, well, on IT security. Okay, onto our report. Okay, happy with that?
So, report for the next committee, just the general one, and then one in March for security.
Rob, yeah.
I wonder whether it might be sensible that it becomes, if not a quarterly, certainly a half yearly, where the Information Governance Board put a regular report, because it would appear that is where all the lines meet, and it's such a key risk. It should be coming to the visibility of members as part of this.
No surprise, it's going to be done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest, you'll write an annual report anyway. So it means that if we report every 6 months, then that'll be fine, I think. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Is there anything else for the forward plan? Yes, Fabian.
I think we're quite understandably going over the same ground from different directions. So in asking for, the request just made also cover the bullet point that you've noted about each council. They would like to, Strata says, a joint mechanism security function will assist the council. A joint mechanism security function. They're asking for it. So I think that deserves specific attention. And
We'll comment on that in the January meeting.
What I'm suggesting is that to shunt that into an existing standing committee is perhaps not the best answer, but maybe good for now.
Yeah. That's noted, thank you. Okay, if there's no other points on the forward plan, then I will thank everybody for their input in that, and obviously it's everybody's opportunity to input into that generally going forward, so please feel free to do so just by email or message or whatever. But I'll now move over to the Vice Chair, who is going to make a statement.
This is my moment. So I move that under section 100, brackets A, brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public, including the press, be excluded from